today I'm going to be working on this piece of furniture that I paid $40 for. It is not solid wood, but it has great lines, good bones, and I'm hoping to do a chippy layered paint finish with a IOD transfer. I never know exactly how it's going to go, but I'm going to show you the picture of the paint that I'm starting with and kind of my design idea, and we'll go from there. To start off, we're using Prairie Gray. This is going to be my base color. I haven't used this one in a really long time. It's kind of like a brownish gray putty color, and I've been wanting to go into the more brown base coats. It's less gray, more brown. I'm pouring my DIY paint into my cup, and then I'm going to add salt wash. I'm not making it super thick. 2 scoops to 1 container of Prairie Gray. There's a little bit left in here, and I might be mixing up some faux rust later, so I'm gonna save that. And then you just stir. The nice thing about salt wash is it also makes more volume in your paint, so it's not like you're wasting money buying it. You're actually just extending the amount of paint that you have to work with. This is the consistency of what I'm working with today. Okay, so I decided to use a new brush shade. This is the Klingon Big Mama Jamma. I'll put the name of what it is like right here, but I've been wanting to try this and haven't yet. Lots of flat surfaces, so this is a good piece to try it on. So this is just gonna be a base layer that's gonna have texture. I'm not stippling it on because I don't want it like super thick. I just want it thick in spots. And you're probably wondering, how come you always start with DIY paint in your salt wash? Because DIY paint's already pretty thick, so it works very well for this application. The paint isn't as thick unless you don't put enough water in it, so this just makes it easy. Also, you'll notice that I'm not sanding the piece. That's because it's not necessary to sand with DIY, and it's definitely not necessary once you add the salt wash. This stuff sticks like cement. I'm gonna go ahead and do this all over the whole piece. So now that my paint is on here, which literally took no time at all, I'm coming back and adding texture with my brush. Sometimes I like to just get it on there and then add the texture because I don't want it stippled all over. So I'm gonna go across the edges and down the sides, then we'll let it dry and we'll be ready for the next coat. So next we're mixing up Sweet Pickins, Corbel, and Ocean. And I'm going to mix up Corbel first using my immersion blender that I bought at the thrift store. And then I'll do Ocean next. 1 part warm water to 1 part milk paint mixed with an immersion blender will give you this Corbel and this Ocean. So we're gonna let that sit for about 20 minutes and we'll be ready to paint. So the first coat that's going on is this Ocean color. It is Sweet Pickins milk paint. I did not add any extra bond to it because I'm not worried about it chipping. In fact, that's the preferred situation here. And I'm just using the same brush. I cleaned it up and I'm gonna put it on. You'll notice that this paint is not as thick as the other paint, but the base color will add some texture to it. And I'm not worried about full coverage because I'm also gonna come back with a 3rd color before I wax, and then a different color on the inside panels. But I think I'm gonna have blue underneath that too. The first coat has dried. You can see that we've got highs and lows. We got some crackle in here and some areas where it's still a little damp, but we're ready for our next color, which is gonna be Corbel. Okay, so I forgot to film putting on the first coat. This is what happens when I film myself. But I have 1 coat of watered down Corbel on here, and it's more like a wash. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a 2nd coat. I didn't realize I was making a watered down paint, but I kind of like the look. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit more solid with my 2nd coat, and then we'll be ready to add the white on the panels, which I'll show you in a minute. So now we are 2nd coating the front with Corbel. It's kind of like a pinky coral color. Oops, it's kind of drippy because I made it thin to be a wash. But it's going to get a dark wax, so it's not going to be quite so bright. And I'm also going to wet distress to have a lot of that blue coming back through, so don't worry. And then these panels where the pink is dripping are going to be painted white after we put the transfer on. We're going to do this resist technique. I've never done it before, but I think it'll look cool. The next step is we're going to be sanding these squares, just these 2, because we're going to put the IOD transfers in here, and I want to do the distress before we do our final cream coat. This is just 220 sandpaper. I'm just going to sand it. I don't know if the dog's going to stay on my lap, but he came and sat down, so. So it's bringing back that faded burlap, which was on the original paint finish. So I'm wet distressing in here, and then once it's dry, we will be ready to put the transfer on. You wanna make sure all the dust is gone, so that way it adheres well. So we're putting the transfer in. Zeb pre-measured it, right? So it goes all the way to the edge from one side to the other. Look at that.
Yep.
Like a boss.
We did not seal this first. It is just wiped down milk paint to make sure we got all the dust off that we could.
And it's all the way dry.
Oh, I got it a little crooked, but I guess we're okay. We're gonna run with it, and Jamie's painting over it anyway.
You got it crooked? I'm doing a resist technique. You're still gonna see the transfer. We got a fan over there. That's what we used to dry this because I didn't want it to all chip off. Zeb's just using the transfer stick also while a doggy is on his lap. Cody, are you comfortable? Cody is like the official definition of lap dog because he will find his way into your lap. Huh, Cody? All right, so if you've never used a transfer before, just know that once you stick it down, you're committed, so that's important. Make sure your surface is free of any kind of dust and that it's dry. You can seal it before if you want to. In this case, we didn't. And if you accidentally pull it up and it didn't stick down, you can put it back down and then rub your stick over it. So that was doing an excellent job. You can see that we still need a little down here, so we are going to have to match that up and put another piece to fill in the spot. All right, Zeb has lined it up. This is why I waited for him to be done woodworking so he could do this, because I was like, I know what I want, but I don't want to have to do it. It requires precision skills.
I think we might have a little bit of overlap, but
What?
it'll be fine. Just dress it and you'll never know. That's why we distress, remember?
Well, it looks good.
Because we're not perfectionists.
This is true. If you're a perfectionist, turn away. All right, almost done. All right, looks good. Now you gotta do this one.
Okay.
Zeb has done a fabulous job, but the question remains, are you feeling saucy? Like, can you do this big side?
I'll do that side if you want to start washing this and recording that, if you want to do that.
All right, or do we want to, or is it gonna be too busy?
I
think it'll just look better if it's all the
It'll
panels.
look like it matches, like it's on purpose instead of an afterthought if we do
All
the
right.
sides.
So I've mixed up Sweet Pickins milk paint and creamy. I've decided to just use the whisk. These little whisks work just fine. So I've never done this before, but I saw it done on TV once. This is the IOD sisters did it. You take it and you paint it over the top of your transfer. And it's okay if it drips because I might two-tone it. And then you like get it wet. Well, I don't know if you get it wet, but that's what I'm doing. And then you just blot it. Theirs they did like white underneath and then dark over the top. And maybe that's a better option, but you know me.
I don't know, I feel like you're getting it really muted down that blue.
The desired effect here.
The ocean.
Now you can really see the difference between the paint resist technique where we just did the creamy with the water on it and then just the darkness. So this makes it look more old and worn, which is the look we're going for. And then this looks more like a sticker on paint. I thought that this was gonna go quickly, but each layer took a little bit longer to dry. And then this took Zeb quite a while. I still haven't washed this yet. I'm gonna do that. But I did decide to come in and two-tone. Zeb can kind of show you where I've already done, to bring in some white. Well, actually this is cream elsewhere in the piece.
Is that creamy?
It is creamy by Sweet Pickins. First, we're gonna do some hand sanding. We could use the orbital, but I'm worried it'll take too much off. So we'll see how this goes, and then maybe we'll do some wet distressing, but I just wanna bring back this original blue color. Milk paint will powder off, and even though this is gonna have some texture, it's gonna be pretty smooth to the touch.
Does smooth that out?
Yeah. What?
He's wanting to play with your sander.
Cody, I'm working here. Thank you. so we're coming in with the copper here, and as soon as I brush it on, I like to wipe it back because you can't wet distress copper. So I like to wipe it back so we can get into the other layers that we've put on our piece here. Okay, so we thought copper, but with this coral milk paint here, the Corabelle, it just looks too pink. So we're gonna come back in with gold and try to
that's better.
Give it a little bit more of a contrast. And the gold's gonna look really good with some like dark wax too.
Sometimes when you start with the patinas and the metals and the golds, you can't stop.
You just can't stop. And I don't want like full coverage, so I'm just kind of messily bringing it into my piece. Because then when we black wax it, it'll look good. Oops. Zeb can't do this because he'd have to stay in the lines.
I'm watching you now and my eyes got a little bit of a twitch going.
It'll be good, I promise.
But you know, once all the layers go on and you wax and you distress a little more, it'll be okay.
So I put on my clear wax here, and I'm coming in with my black wax and my stencil brush. We don't actually have green stencil brushes because
it was a prototype.
It was a prototype. And I'm just darkening up some of this pink so it's not quite so like in your face pink, and also the hardware.
So it's not so in your face gold.
Yeah, so it looks more antique-y gold and less like in your face gold. I'm also gonna be using DIY white wax to add a little oxidation to match the oxidation that's happened here with that wash. So probably more like in the middle with it. And then an immediate rub back because I don't want it to look like it's been waxed, just aged. So you can see that it just adds like a highlight to it. Cody wants you to know he approves of this piece. I'm pretty sure he licked it. Did you lick this piece?
Him and Rex distressing all the furniture.
Thanks for watching this makeover. I know that we've been doing a lot of these layered finishes. If it's not for you, just watch the beginning where we put the first coat of paint on and then skip to the end where we wax it, and then you just have a single coat finish.
With these kind of finishes, it's almost the messier the better. And the more layers you have, the more it looks like it's been in the back of a barn, which is why we do this.
A lot of the finesse comes at the end with the patinas and the waxes, and it all pulls together. If you have projects that you'd like to make over, be sure to visit JamiRayVintage.com. This piece will also be listed on our website as well. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Jami Ray Vintage for more
DIY.